Leonardo Dicaprio, from breakdance to Oscar.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
From breakdancing on the streets of Santa Barbara to accepting an Oscar on the grandest stage in Hollywood, Leonardo DiCaprio's journey is a wild ride you won't believe. How did a kid who couldn't even land a role in a kids' TV series become a global superstar? Loved by Scorsese and loathed by Mark Wahlberg? What secrets lie behind his mysterious modeling agency and near-death experiences? And how did he go from playing Jack Dawson to Jordan Belfort, and finally to becoming the champion of the 2015 Academy Awards? The answers will shock you. Join me as we dive into the incredible life of Leonardo DiCaprio, a tale of talent, perseverance, and a hunger for greatness that will leave you on the edge of your seat. Let me take you back to the groovy year of 1974, when hippie culture, velvet, and rock and roll were all the rage. Irmeline and George were expecting their first child, a boy they would name Leonardo. Irmeline had fallen in love with the name while admiring a Da Vinci painting in Italy, and she felt her baby kick for the first time right then and there. George, an artist himself, didn't mind naming his son after the greatest artist of all time. Tragically, Irmeline and George split up before Leonardo turned 1, but they were determined to co-parent and give their child a loving and stable upbringing. George, who worked at a comic book store, instilled in Leonardo a love for the arts from a young age. Meanwhile, Irmeline, who spoke multiple languages, took Leonardo on adventures across Europe and introduced him to his German grandparents. Leonardo was barely out of diapers when he started performing in the living room, entertaining his family with impressions and dance moves. His parents saw a spark in him and began taking him to auditions. At just 5 years old, he landed a role on the TV show Romper Room, but he was so captivated by the cameras that he decided then and there to become an actor. For the next 7 years, Leonardo went to audition after audition, facing rejection after rejection. He even considered trading acting for breakdancing, which he was quite good at, and even made it into a local German newspaper. But he persisted, and finally, 4 long years later, he landed his first TV role in The New Lassie, appearing in 2 episodes. This marked the beginning of his career, followed by small parts in Roseanne, The Outsiders, Parenthood, and even Santa Barbara, his grandmother's favorite show. He worked his way up from one supporting role to another until he finally got his big break in the teen series Growing Pains. There, he quickly stole the spotlight from the show's star, Kirk Cameron, and became a heartthrob among teenage viewers. It's a testament to Leonardo's determination and passion for acting that he didn't give up, even when faced with rejection and disappointment. And it's clear that his parents' love and support played a big role in helping him achieve his dreams. Let's continue the story of Leonardo DiCaprio's journey to stardom. After his TV roles, he made his big screen debut in the horror film Critters 3, and from then on, he never looked back at television. His next audition for the movie This Boy's Life was a game changer. Directed by Michael Caton Jones, the audition was a nerve-wracking experience, especially with Robert De Niro reading lines alongside him. Tobey Maguire, a childhood friend, was also vying for the role, making it a tense and competitive process. As he left the audition room, Leonardo thought to himself, "It's over." But fate had other plans. De Niro himself insisted that Leonardo was the right choice for the role, a decision that Leonardo remains forever grateful for. And in a show of loyalty, Leonardo convinced the director to cast Tobey Maguire in a supporting role. Landing a real movie role made Leonardo realize that his previous work had little to do with real acting. He needed to shed his teen heartthrob image and become a serious, dramatic actor. The success of This Boy's Life helped him transition, but his next role took him to a whole new level. Playing Arnie in What's Eating Gilbert Grape was a breakthrough performance. Viewers were amazed by his convincing portrayal, with some even wondering if he was actually mentally impaired in real life. Director Lasse Hallström recalled how Leonardo got into character in a snap, and during one intense scene he stopped filming, worried about the actor's well-being. But Leonardo quickly dropped character and asked with a smile, "Is everything okay?" Despite the intense role, he remained a teenager at heart. These early movie roles marked a turning point in Leonardo's career. showcasing his talent and dedication to his craft. He was no longer just a TV actor, but a serious movie star, ready to take on more challenging roles and make a lasting impact in the film industry. His role in What's Eating Gilbert Grape earned him his first Golden Globe and Oscar nominations, a testament to his talent and dedication. However, not everyone was a fan of his on set. Johnny Depp recalls Leonardo being a bit of a handful, always chatting about video games and sneaking cigarettes when his mother wasn't looking. Despite this, Leonardo's career was taking off. He landed a role in the big-budget western The Quick and the Dead alongside Russell Crowe and Sharon Stone. Interestingly, Sharon Stone was a big supporter of Leonardo and even paid him out of her own pocket when the studio hesitated due to his rising star power. His participation in the film cost her $120,000. In 1995, Leonardo starred in The Basketball Diaries, a gritty drama about teen drug use. Although it received mixed reviews and was banned or heavily edited in several countries, it showcased Leonardo's range as an actor. Director Scott Calvert chose Leonardo for the lead role based on his appearance, unaware of his growing fame. However, Leonardo had a say in the casting of other actors and even made Mark Wahlberg audition 6 times for the role of Mickey. Initially, the two actors had a tense relationship, constantly joking and taking jabs at each other. But they eventually became close friends and delivered a powerful performance that highlighted the issue of drug addiction. 1995 was a remarkable year for Leonardo, culminating in the release of Total Eclipse, a biographical drama about the tumultuous romance between French poets Paul Verlaine and Arthur Rimbaud. In 1996, he took on the iconic role of Romeo in Baz Luhrmann's modern adaptation of Shakespeare's classic tale. Although Leonardo wasn't a huge Shakespeare fan at first, Luhrmann's vision and enthusiasm drew him in. And it's a good thing it did, as the film became a massive box office hit, grossing over 10 times its budget. As Romeo, Leonardo's performance captivated audiences worldwide and Leomania was born. Fans couldn't get enough of him, and poor Kristen Zhang, his then girlfriend, felt the brunt of it. My fans sent me tons of hate mail and we were practically torn to pieces on that red carpet, Leonardo recalled. The couple eventually parted ways in 1997. Leonardo's next project, Marvin's Room, was a critically acclaimed drama that reunited him with Robert De Niro and co-starred Meryl Streep and Diane Keaton. The poignant story of two sisters resonated with audiences and critics alike. But the real game-changer was yet to come. James Cameron's Titanic was one of the most ambitious projects in Hollywood history, with a budget of over $200 million. Leonardo was cast alongside Kate Winslet, and the rest, as they say, is history. Jeremy Sisto, an actor who came close to landing the role of Jack in Titanic, had high praise for Leonardo Dicaprio, saying, "What is it about Leo? He's got everything it takes and more to be one of the biggest stars in the world. It's a combination of his looks, charm, uniqueness — any great star has to be unique in some way — and solid acting capability. I mean, he's just really, really good." Sisto was the closest contender for the role of Jack Dawson, which ultimately went to Leonardo. Interestingly, other big names like Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, and Macaulay Culkin had also auditioned for the part, but didn't make the cut. James Cameron's decision to cast Leonardo proved to be a masterstroke, as the film went on to become a global phenomenon. The shooting process was a monumental task, with a miniature ocean, a reconstructed Titanic, and hundreds of props. But the cast rose to the challenge, delivering an unforgettable viewing experience. Fascinatingly, the famous "I'm the King of the World" scene was Leonardo's own improvisation. And as a fun fact, the nude scene was shot long before that iconic scene. Because YouTube will prioritize interactive videos, please comment OK if you find this video interesting. Thank you. The filming of Titanic was a remarkable experience, with director James Cameron aiming for authenticity. In the iconic scene where Jack draws Rose, Cameron wanted the actors to feel awkward, as if they had just met. However, Kate Winslet took matters into her own hands and showed Leonardo DiCaprio her breasts before the scene, easing his nerves. Titanic's box office success was unprecedented, grossing over $2 billion and becoming the second highest grossing film in history after Avatar. The film's appeal was evident, with 7% of American teenage girls seeing it at least twice in the first 5 weeks. The Film Academy also recognized its excellence, awarding it 11 Oscars and 14 nominations, a record shared only with Ben-Hur and The Lord of the Rings. However, Leonardo DiCaprio's behavior at the time was puzzling. He informed Cameron that he wouldn't attend the Oscar ceremony, which James Cameron described as the behavior of a spoiled brat. Leonardo further expressed his desire to distance himself from commercial projects and admitted regretting not being part of Boogie Nights, a film he still regrets turning down. However, his comment was somewhat misleading, as it sounded like he regretted starring in Titanic, for which he received a Golden Globe nomination. To clarify, Paul Thomas Anderson, the director of Boogie Nights, had wanted Leonardo to play the lead role of Dirk Diggler, a porn star. When Leonardo declined the offer, Anderson reportedly said, "Let the other guy from Basketball Diaries have it," referring to Mark Wahlberg, who ultimately landed the role. After Titanic, Leonardo had a close call with death while parachuting with friends, but luckily escaped unharmed. He then moved on to his next project, where he played a villain for the first time. After Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio took on the role of King Louis XIV in the screen adaptation of The Man in the Iron Mask, a project that brought together a talented ensemble of Hollywood legends. Following a brief cameo in Woody Allen's Celebrity, Leonardo took a 2-year hiatus from the big screen. He returned in 2000 with a starring role in Danny Boyle's The Beach, a film that initially had Ewan McGregor lined up for the lead. However, the studio insisted on having Leonardo on board, leading to a conflict that resulted in Ewan not speaking to Danny for 15 years. Meanwhile, Leonardo received his first 7-figure paycheck for the role. Ewan eventually got his revenge when he landed the lead in Moulin Rouge, a film directed by Leonardo's friend Baz Luhrmann. The Beach, despite its gloomy tone, broke even at the box office thanks in large part to Leonardo's presence. Around the same time, he began his first serious relationship with Brazilian model Gisele Bündchen, which lasted until 2005. However, the new millennium also marked the beginning of a series of legal battles for Leonardo, starting with a lawsuit related to the film Don's Plum. This 1995 film, which co-starred Tobey Maguire, was delayed for 5 years, with the producers waiting for the actors' names to gain enough recognition to attract audiences. Leonardo and Tobey, however, had asked studios not to distribute the film, leading to a lawsuit demanding $40 million in damages. The case dragged on until 2007, when the actors were able to prove that they had acted in the film as a personal favor to a friend, with the understanding that it wouldn't be released widely. Back in the day, James Cameron was working on a Spider-Man screenplay, and Leonardo DiCaprio was the top contender for the lead role. However, things didn't quite work out, and both Cameron and DiCaprio left the project. Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire eventually took the reins, but Leonardo didn't regret the missed opportunity. Instead, it led him to collaborate with the legendary Martin Scorsese on Gangs of New York. Filming in Rome, Leonardo found himself confined to his hotel room due to his massive fan following. But on set, he still had to navigate a different kind of chaos. Cameron Diaz, at Scorsese's request, had to physically hit Leonardo during a scene, leaving him with a numb face and a headache that halted filming. In another intense moment, Leonardo accidentally broke Daniel Day-Lewis's nose during a fight scene, but the dedicated actor continued in character until the end of the take. Despite critical acclaim and 10 Oscar nominations, the film surprisingly underperformed at the box office. However, it set a record by not winning any of the awards it was nominated for. The following year, Leonardo teamed up with Steven Spielberg for the comedy Catch Me If You Can. Neither Leonardo nor Tom Hanks were the initial choices for their roles. Spielberg had originally planned to cast Johnny Depp and James Gandolfini, but they both left the project. This collaboration resulted in a light-hearted and entertaining film, showcasing Leonardo's versatility as an actor. His ability to adapt to different roles and work with esteemed directors has cemented his position as a respected figure in the film industry. With a career spanning decades, Leonardo has consistently demonstrated his dedication to his craft, and his ability to connect with his co-stars and bring authenticity to his performances has made him a beloved figure in the entertainment industry. Leonardo DiCaprio's collaboration with Steven Spielberg on Catch Me If You Can led to a fascinating encounter with Frank Abagnale, the real-life inspiration for the film. Abbagnale's autobiography served as the script's basis, and he even made cameo appearances on set. Although the film didn't win many awards, Leonardo received his third Golden Globe nomination. In 2004, Leonardo reunited with Martin Scorsese for the biopic Aviator, portraying the enigmatic billionaire Howard Hughes. To prepare, Leonardo extensively researched Hughes's life, meeting with people who knew him and experiencing the challenges of obsessive-compulsive disorder firsthand. This dedication paid off as the film received 11 Oscar nominations and won 5, including a Golden Globe for Best Actor. Scorsese's meticulous attention to detail was evident in the film's color grading, which shifted to reflect the era's cinematography. Following this success, the duo began working on their next project, a remake of the Hong Kong thriller Internal Affairs. Initially, Scorsese envisioned Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt in the lead roles, but Tom backed out and Brad opted to produce instead, citing his age. Jack Nicholson was eventually convinced to play Frank Costello after Leonardo and Scorsese personally met with him. This remake, titled The Departed, would go on to win 4 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director. Leonardo's portrayal of Billy Costigan, an undercover cop, earned him critical acclaim. The film's success marked a milestone in Leonardo's career, solidifying his position as a versatile and accomplished actor. Because YouTube will prioritize interactive videos, please comment OK if you find this video interesting. Thank you. Leonardo DiCaprio's experience working on The Departed was particularly challenging thanks to the intense scenes with Jack Nicholson. Unbeknownst to the cast and crew, Nicholson had a real gun on set, which caused a stir when it was discovered. Scorsese recalled the shock and fear that gripped everyone, leading to cuts in the scene. However, Leonardo's genuine reaction of fear made it into the final cut, adding to the film's intensity. The Departed marked a milestone in Leonardo's career, with Martin Scorsese finally winning his first Oscar. That same year, Leonardo received his third Oscar nomination for Blood Diamond, an action thriller filmed in South Africa. This project had a profound impact on Leonardo's life as he began visiting orphanages and supporting local communities. He even adopted a girl from one of the orphanages, maintaining a connection with her to this day. Blood Diamond sparked controversy, drawing attention from authorities and prompting the South African government to address issues related to illegal diamond mining. Meanwhile, Leonardo had a close call while scuba diving in a shark cage, his second near-death experience. "A great white jumped into my cage when I was diving in South Africa," the actor tells Wired. "Half its body was in the cage and it was snapping at me. I sort of fell down to the bottom of the cage and tried to lie flat. The great white took about 5 or 6 snaps an arm's length away from my head. The guys there said that has never happened in the 30 years they'd been doing it. It flipped itself back out again. I have it on video, it's insane." In 2008, Leonardo returned to the screen with Revolutionary Road and Body of Lies, reuniting with previous co-stars. Body of Lies, an action film about CIA agents, marked his second collaboration with Russell Crowe. Leonardo's collaboration with Kate Winslet and Kathy Bates in Revolutionary Road marked a reunion with his Titanic co-stars. His close friendship with Kate likely contributed to their convincing performances in this challenging drama. Once again, DiCaprio joined forces with Martin Scorsese, initially intending to make The Wolf of Wall Street. However, the studio deemed it too expensive, and instead, they worked on creating the thriller Shutter Island. Notably, Shutter Island is an anagram of the phrase truth and lies, reflecting the film's complex themes. This puzzle piece is just one of many cleverly hidden throughout the picture. In our opinion, Shutter Island is one of the best thrillers of all time, drawing inspiration from the film noir era and Hitchcock's Vertigo, which was Scorsese's inspiration. Although the film's release was initially set for 2009, the studio pushed it to February 2010 to capitalize on Oscar buzz and save on advertising costs. Despite this strategic move, Shutter Island became the duo's only joint project without a single Academy Award nomination. Nonetheless, they still broke even and earned a spot on every list of top thrillers. In 2009, Leonardo visited Russia, where he had his third near-death experience. While flying business class, he witnessed a terrifying incident that would leave a lasting impression. As he recounted, "I was in business class and an engine blew up in front of my eyes. It was right after Sully Sullenberger landed in the Hudson. I was sitting there looking out at the wing, and the entire wing exploded in a fireball. DiCaprio, the sole witness to this dramatic event, described the scene with vivid detail. "I was the only one looking out at the moment this giant turbine exploded like a comet. It was crazy." The plane fell silent as the engines were shut down, leaving passengers gliding through the air in a state of disbelief and uncertainty. They shut all the engines off for a couple of minutes, so you're just sitting there gliding with absolutely no sound, and nobody in the plane was saying anything. It was a surreal experience. Thankfully, the pilots managed to restart the engines and execute an emergency landing at JFK Airport. Meanwhile, Christopher Nolan had been developing a film about dreams for over 2 decades, and he knew Leonardo was the perfect fit for the lead role. After reading the script, Leonardo agreed to join the project, and he and Nolan spent 2 months refining the character and rewriting scenes. According to Emma Thomas, Nolan's wife and producer, their collaboration transformed the story from a puzzle into a character-driven journey that resonated with audiences. Leonardo DiCaprio has opened up about the challenges he faced while working on films like Inception and Shutter Island. He found it difficult to navigate the lack of a clear villain and the intense dramatic tension in these movies. However, his experience working with Marion Cotillard on Inception was particularly memorable, as she brought a new level of dedication to their scenes together. According to Leonardo, Marion's meticulous approach to preparation and rehearsal raised the bar for his own performance. Inception's director, Christopher Nolan, drew inspiration from his own experiences in the film industry when creating the characters for the movie. He modeled the members of the Inception team after a real film crew, with Cobb as the director, Arthur as the producer, and so on. This unique approach added another layer of complexity to the film's already intricate plot. In 2011, Leonardo took on the role of John Edgar Hoover in the biographical drama J. Edgar, directed by Clint Eastwood. This project presented a significant challenge, as it spanned over 60 years of Hoover's life and required a team of specialists to bring the story to life. Leonardo's commitment to the role was evident in his willingness to endure lengthy makeup and hair sessions, which included layers of silicone, body pads, wigs, and a prosthetic nose. That same year, Leonardo finally had the opportunity to work with Quentin Tarantino on Django Unchained. Although Tarantino had initially considered Leonardo for a role in Inglourious Basterds, he ultimately decided to cast a German-speaking actor instead. However, their desire to collaborate didn't fade, and Leonardo joined the ensemble cast of Django Unchained, playing the villainous Calvin Candy. Tarantino himself admitted that Calvin was the only character he'd created without any redeeming qualities, making Leonardo's performance all the more impressive. Because YouTube will prioritize interactive videos, please comment OK if you find this video interesting. Thank you. Leonardo DiCaprio faced a significant challenge in portraying pure evil on screen, particularly in his role as Calvin Candy in Django Unchained. This was only his second villainous role, and he found it difficult to immerse himself in the character's racist and violent nature. During filming, he even struggled to complete a scene due to the overwhelming amount of racist comments. Despite the challenges, Leonardo's commitment to his craft led to some intense and memorable moments on set. During one scene, he cut his hand while banging on a table but continued acting as if nothing had happened. The film crew was so impressed that they gave him a standing ovation after the take. Tarantino, known for his quick thinking, even incorporated Leonardo's injured hand into the scene, using fake blood to add a touch of realism. Leonardo's performance in Django Unchained earned him a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actor, although the award ultimately went to his co-star Christopher Waltz. Next, Leonardo transformed into the iconic Jay Gatsby in Baz Luhrmann's adaptation of The Great Gatsby. This marked his first collaboration with Tobey Maguire since This Boy's Life, and his second with Luhrmann after Romeo and Juliet. The film's costumes and set design received an Oscar, and it became another sensation in Leonardo's career. While playing the charismatic Gatsby on screen, Leonardo continued his environmental activism off-screen. In 2013 alone, he spent $3 million on preserving Nepalese tigers. That same year, he finally got the funding to shoot The Wolf of Wall Street, his fifth collaboration with Martin Scorsese. To prepare for the role of Jordan Belfort, Leonardo spent several months with the real Belfort, learning everything from broker slang to how to behave under the influence of heavy drugs. The film is full of improvisations, and Leonardo's incredible performance created an unforgettable character. Martin Scorsese is known for giving his actors creative freedom, which often leads to exceptional performances. However, his fifth collaboration with Leonardo Dicaprio, The Wolf of Wall Street, didn't quite go as planned. Despite receiving an Oscar nomination, Leonardo didn't take home the award, and the film's success was overshadowed by a real-life FBI investigation into money laundering and corruption. The Malaysian scandal, which involved the theft and concealment of funds by the Malaysian Prime Minister and his son, was directly connected to The Wolf of Wall Street. The film's production company, Red Granite, was owned by the same individuals involved in the scandal, and they had invested over $100 million in the film. As a result, Leonardo was forced to testify before the FBI and return a gift he had received from Red Granite, the actual Oscar statuette won by Marlon Brando. Although Leonardo was never confirmed to be involved in any crimes, he had to return any gifts he received that were connected to the stolen money. This wasn't the end of Scorsese's connections to multi-billion-dollar Asian companies, however. In 2015, he directed a commercial short called The Audition, which starred Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, and Brad Pitt. The commercial had a record-breaking budget of $70 million, making it the most expensive commercial in history. Scorsese and DiCaprio's next project together will be a biopic about Theodore Roosevelt, although little is known about the project, and it's not expected to be released until at least 2022. In the meantime, Leonardo has been focusing on his philanthropic work, particularly in the area of climate change. In 2014, he was appointed a United Nations ambassador for climate change and has since dedicated more time to this role than to his acting career. Before filming The Wolf of Wall Street, Leonardo DiCaprio had already committed to working on The Revenant with director Alejandro González Iñárritu. Iñárritu agreed to wait until DiCaprio finished filming Wolf, and in the meantime, he worked on Birdman. Once DiCaprio was available, he was offered the role of Steve Jobs in the biopic of the same name, but he turned it down out of respect for Iñárritu and his interest in The Revenant. The Revenant proved to be the greatest challenge of DiCaprio's career, requiring him to learn new skills like firing a musket, starting a fire, and speaking Native American dialects. He also had to endure long hours in makeup and eat raw bison meat, despite being a vegetarian. Despite the many difficult and dangerous scenes, DiCaprio didn't get hurt once during filming, thanks to the expertise of the stunt coordinators and film crew. DiCaprio brought Tom Hardy onto the project, and the two actors made a wager during filming. The loser had to get a tattoo chosen by the winner, and Hardy lost, resulting in a tattoo that reads, "Leo knows all," in DiCaprio's handwriting. The film was a huge success, earning $500 million at the box office, receiving rave reviews, and winning numerous awards. It marked the pinnacle of DiCaprio's career, and he took a 4-year break from acting afterward. DiCaprio's next project was supposed to be the drama Black Hand about the Italian Sherlock Holmes, but he delayed filming to work on Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood instead. This criminal thriller also stars Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie. After the success of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Leonardo DiCaprio continued to choose projects that aligned with his passion for environmental and social issues. In 2020, he starred in the Netflix satirical comedy Don't Look Up alongside Jennifer Lawrence. The film, a thinly veiled allegory for climate change denial, received mixed reviews, but sparked important conversations about the urgency of addressing environmental concerns. DiCaprio's dedication to environmental activism remained unwavering. He continued to use his platform to raise awareness about climate change, deforestation, and the protection of endangered species. His foundation, the Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, continued to support numerous environmental projects around the globe, from protecting rainforests to promoting clean energy solutions. His next acting project saw him reunite with Martin Scorsese for the historical crime drama Killers of the Flower Moon, based on the Osage Indian murders in the 1920s. This film explored themes of greed, corruption, and the exploitation of indigenous communities. DiCaprio's commitment to portraying complex and morally ambiguous characters continued to showcase his versatility as an actor. Beyond acting, DiCaprio's entrepreneurial spirit led him to explore new ventures. He invested in sustainable businesses and technologies, recognizing the potential for innovation to address environmental challenges. He also became involved in the production of documentaries, using the power of storytelling to shed light on pressing issues and inspire action. Leonardo Dicaprio's journey from a young boy captivated by cameras to a Hollywood icon and environmental champion is a testament to his unwavering dedication, talent, and passion. His commitment to using his platform for good has made him a role model for aspiring actors and activists alike. As we conclude the remarkable story of Leonardo DiCaprio, we're reminded that success is not solely defined by awards or accolades, but by the journey itself. Leo's unwavering dedication to his craft, his willingness to take risks, and his passion for storytelling have inspired countless individuals around the world. What can we learn from Leo's journey? That our dreams are worth fighting for, and that every setback is an opportunity to grow stronger and more resilient. Let's carry these lessons with us as we navigate our own paths, and remember that our stories are still being written. Hit 9 if you connected with this story, or 0 if it fell short for you. Your feedback matters. Share your thoughts and comments below, and let's continue the conversation. Don't forget to subscribe to iconicinside for more inspiring stories and behind-the-scenes looks at the lives of iconic figures. Thanks for watching. Howard Stern is now about 70. How he lives is sad. Do you really know about the tragic life behind the spotlight of Howard Stern, the controversial American radio personality? The reality is far from the glittering facade we often see. Throughout his nearly 7-decade existence, he has faced intense criticism for his racially charged comedy sketches, outrageous stunts, and offensive interviews, including jokes about deceased individuals like Selena and a lawsuit that followed. This video will unveil the harrowing obstacles he faced, revealing a side of his story that might take you by shock. Prepare to be astonished by the resilience of Howard Stern. Let's dive in. For over 4 decades, Howard Stern reigned supreme on the radio airwaves, raking in a staggering $1 billion while earning the notorious title of the most outrageous shock jock of all time. But shock jock barely scratches the surface of his jaw-dropping, morally repugnant and downright depraved antics on his show. From spewing racist venom to making suggestive comments about minors, and even stooping to the level of mocking the dead, Howard has consistently pushed the envelope, leaving no taboo unbroken. If you thought there was a moral line that couldn't be crossed, Howard has obliterated it with reckless abandon. But in a stunning about-face, Howard now claims to be ashamed of his legacy, disgusted by the very behavior that made him a household name. Through therapy, he's had a change of heart, reinventing himself as a champion of moral righteousness. The problem is, Howard doesn't want you to dig into his past, fearing you might uncover the truth. That his provocative words and actions were always a smokescreen to protect his vast fortune. Today, we're going to delve into the twisted world of Howard Stern, the most controversial figure in entertainment history. From his early days on Boston University's radio station WTBU, where his show, King Schmaltz's Bagel Hour, was axed after just 1 episode due to a racist sketch, it was clear that Howard had a taste for controversy and a desire to push boundaries. Radio was his ultimate goal, and he was determined to conquer the pinnacle of radio in New York City. After college, Howard bounced around East Coast radio stations, eventually landing a stable gig in Washington, D.C. in 1981. He knew this job would be the perfect springboard to launch him into the big leagues in New York. To dominate the competition, Howard needed a team, and he found the perfect partner in co-host Robin Quivers. Her infectious laugh and ability to counterbalance Howard's often racially charged humor made her the perfect foil. Management saw the potential in pairing the provocative Jewish guy from New York with the charismatic black woman from Baltimore. With his dream team in place, Howard was on a roll, and he wasted no time in letting his listeners know he was unlike any other radio host. In his debut broadcast at WWDC, he notoriously called the office of Mayor Marion Barry, berating the assistant who answered the phone. "What kind of man calls himself Marion? That's a girl's name." The next day, he called a local high school, proposing that students be given the day off to celebrate his arrival. His on-air stunts were so unpredictable that the station had to install a 7-second delay to contain his outbursts. And it didn't take him long to stir up controversy, less than a year to be exact. In 1982, tragedy struck when an Air Florida jet crashed into the Potomac River, claiming 78 lives. The very next morning, Howard Stern made a shocking call to the airline inquiring about the cost of a one-way ticket from National Airport to the 14th Street Bridge. This brazen stunt cemented his reputation as a radio wild card, propelling him to the top of the Washington radio scene. "Man, when I get to your edge, I hope they shoot me. Why am I different from other DJs? Yeah, 'cause I fart on the air." What? I fart on the radio. I joked on everything and everyone equally. No race or religion was singled out. While some people were repelled by his antics, others were drawn to his unbridled energy. However, his provocative persona hid a troubling reality, as seen in his disturbing interactions with a black woman and a young person. Howard Stern's conversation with a black woman took a dark turn when he attempted to mask his racism as humor. He started by sarcastically commenting, "Just want to say something, a black woman and a white man shaking hands in Washington. Who says there's racial problems? Man, who says there's racial?" A remark that implied interracial interactions were unusual and worthy of note. But his tone quickly turned from feigned innocence to outright aggression, as he lashed out with a harmful and false stereotype. "Get your hand off me. You'll catch some kind of disease." This racist outburst perpetuates the dangerous and false idea that black people are inherently dirty or diseased. The exchange serves as a stark reminder of the toxic language and attitudes that continue to fuel racism and discrimination in our society. In another conversation, Howard Stern's interview style was criticized by a young person. The exchange became uncomfortable as Howard Stern pressed the guest about their familiarity with his show and their reasons for disliking it. When the guest called him rather crude, Howard Stern became defensive and pushy, asking for specific examples. The guest stood firm, stating, "You're rather disgusting and I don't care to give you an example," highlighting Howard Stern's tendency to prioritize his own ego over respect and empathy. Despite being a liability at times, WWDC was thrilled with the surging ratings and offered Howard a contract extension. However, his heart was set on conquering the New York City radio scene. When WNBC offered him a 5-year, $1 million deal, he jumped at the opportunity. Now in his hometown, working his dream job, Howard effortlessly boosted NBC's ratings. But the network's attempts to rein him in and tone down his provocative content only fueled his rebellious spirit. Howard delighted in mocking his employer, which, unsurprisingly, didn't sit well with the network. "There's this one bathroom at NBC, it's down the hall from my office, that every drug user in the building uses because it's the only private bathroom. So now they broke the lock on the door so people can't lock it, I know, so that NBC security people go in and bust drug abusers." This 3-year period marked Howard's ascent to A-list fame, with frequent appearances on Late Night, with David Letterman further increasing his national visibility. Although fans loved his irreverent humor, Howard knew he was pushing the limits. "I'm on a roll right now that'll probably get me fired within a year or so," he predicted. "I'll probably be fired, but I'm willing to accept that." In essence, Howard was daring the network to fire him, and it was only a matter of time before they took the bait. In a surprise move, WNBC issued a press release on September 30th, announcing the cancellation of the Howard Stern program due to conceptual differences between Howard and the network's management. Despite his sky-high ratings, Howard was shown the door, leaving many to wonder why. Some speculated that it was due to a controversial on-air sketch about bestiality, while others believed it was simply a case of an uptight executive trying to protect the network's image. Howard didn't mince words, taking to the airwaves to plead for a new job. "I'll tell you the truth right now, I'm looking for a job. I would love to hear from everyone. My agent is Don Buchwald. Please give me a job. I want to get back on the air in New York." Howard's impressive ratings spoke for themselves, and he quickly landed a new gig at WXRK in New York, where he continued to dominate the airwaves. His appearance on The Tonight Show in July 1992, where he looked like a rock star, further cemented his nationwide visibility. During the interview, he announced his first feature film, The Adventures of Fartman, which would debut 2 months later at the MTV Music Video Awards. "Allow me to demonstrate the greatest farting powers of all," Howard exclaimed, solidifying his status as an American sensation by the end of 1992. His show was the #1 radio show in both Los Angeles and New York City, with a staggering 6.4% share of the LA market and 9.4% in New York. As his fame grew, so did the controversy surrounding his jokes, which often made headlines. But instead of toning it down, Howard seemed to relish the attention, becoming even more outrageous than before. In 1992, the FCC slapped him with a $600,000 fine for making a racist comment on air, but that didn't stop him. The following year, he took things to a new low with a blackface stunt during a New Year's Eve pay-per-view event. Alongside Sherman Hemsley, Howard parodied Ted Danson and Whoopi Goldberg, painting his face black and using racial slurs, as well as a stereotypical accent used to demean African Americans. The stunt was widely condemned, but Howard seemed to take it in stride, continuing to push the boundaries of what was considered acceptable. "Well, don't let the door hit you on your big black ass, my man. On the way out of here now. Where was I? Oh yes, now Whoopi, you are filthy." Howard Stern's history of racism and offensive behavior continued to make headlines. In the past, he had donned blackface on multiple occasions, including on the PD Green Show and his short-lived Channel 9 TV show. His excuses for these stunts were just as appalling, with comments like, "Black people want slavery as much as white people want the slaves. We wants the Indo-Chinese." And, "I'm just trying to improve my image. The black people are against me because they say that I'm not a real black man." Despite the outrage and calls for his cancellation, Howard's corporate backers didn't seem to care, as long as he was raking in the profits. The federal government fined him repeatedly, but he simply paid up and continued to push the boundaries of what was considered acceptable. His fans loved his rebellious attitude, and he continued to dominate the airwaves. His 1993 autobiography, Private Parts, has sparked riots at book signing events, and he held an anti-censorship rally that drew 5,000 people. He was featured on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine and won the nationally syndicated Air Personality of the Year award from Billboard every year from 1994 to 2002. His Miss Howard Stern New Year's Eve pageant in 1994 broke records, with 400,000 households paying $1.40 each to tune in. He even considered running for governor of New York, securing the required votes, but ultimately dropping out due to his refusal to disclose his financial information. In a bizarre twist, Howard drew the line at revealing his income, saying, "I've been telling you about myself since the first day I started broadcasting. There's only one fact I never revealed. I never told you how much money I made. I never told you how much money I have in the bank. And the reason I never told you is because it's none of your business." It was a strange moral boundary for someone who had consistently pushed the limits of decency and respect. If you like this video, please leave a number 9 in the comments below. Howard Stern's show was taking a dark turn, and his behavior was becoming increasingly disturbing. One of his frequent guests, Debbie Tay, was struggling with mental illness and drug addiction. Tragically, she passed away from a heroin overdose in April 1995. Howard invited her boyfriend, Chanty Hayden, onto the show to pay tribute to Debbie, but things quickly took a morbid turn. Chanty brought Debbie's cremated ashes to the studio, and Howard made inappropriate comments saying, "I figured I'd want to see her, you know, so without further ado, maybe open the box, let me take a look at Debbie in her final resting place. So that's Debbie, huh?" He then proceeded to shake the box, saying, "We are doing weird things, wait here, hey, wait, Debbie wants to say something." The crew was visibly mortified, and it was clear that Howard had crossed a line. Howard continued to make light of the situation, saying, "Dude, I don't know, man, this is really wrong. You think so? Yeah, Debbie would love this, you know." The incident sparked a lawsuit from Debbie's siblings, Jeff and Melissa, who sought $8 million in damages from Howard Stern and Infinity Broadcasting. Although the initial lawsuit was dismissed, an appeals court revived the complaint in 1998, suggesting that a jury could find Stern's behavior had crossed the line of decency. After a prolonged legal battle, the Tay family was willing to settle for around $60,000, while Stern's lawyers had initially offered $30,000. The settlement terms remained confidential, but a court insider revealed that the Tay family's lawyers were smiling as they left the courthouse. It's clear why many people believe Howard went too far. Some defenders blame Chanty for bringing the ashes to the studio, allowing Howard to exploit the situation. Regardless, the entire incident was a tragedy that should never have occurred. In Howard's brand of comedy, even the deceased were fair game for jokes. This was evident in his treatment of Selena, the 23-year-old Mexican-American singer who was tragically murdered by a deranged fan in Texas in 1995. The next morning, Howard played her music with gunshot sounds in the background, repeatedly expressing his dislike for her music while mocking Hispanic people. Howard Stern's comments about Selena's music and Hispanic people sparked outrage among Hispanic leaders in Texas, who threatened to boycott radio stations that aired his show. However, Howard refused to apologize, standing firm in his belief that racist humor was acceptable as long as it was done in a light-hearted and playful manner. In an interview, Howard defended his approach, saying, "If you make fun of everybody and have a good time with it, and they know you're not really racist, then it's okay. But you know what? There are racists who listen to you. I mean, whoever wants to listen can listen and interpret it their own way. I just got to do my own thing." Many people believe that Howard is not a racist, but rather someone who enjoys dark humor. However, critics argue that his jokes can normalize or justify racist behavior, and that actual racists may interpret his jokes as condoning their beliefs. Howard's show has attracted some of the most vile people in the world, including a serial killer named Clay who called into the show in 1997. Howard engaged in a 10-minute conversation with Clay, who admitted to killing 12 prostitutes in the New Orleans area. The FBI later contacted Howard for a copy of the conversation, but it remains unclear whether the call was a skit or not. Howard's ability to blur the line between what is a joke and what is serious has contributed to his popularity over the years. He has established a legacy group of reoccurring guests called the Whack Pack, who have signature traits, skills, disabilities, or unique personal appearances that make them characters in the Howard Stern community. Fans believe that Howard's content with the Whack Pack is some of his best work, as it allows them to laugh both at and with the guests. As a 20-year veteran in the industry, Howard seemed unstoppable. He signed a deal with CBS to host the Howard Stern radio show on television, which initially saw high ratings. However, the graphic content eventually led to over 60% of TV stations dropping the program. Over the next 3 years, Howard Stern's controversies were about to reach a boiling point. As we approached the dawn of a new millennium, his comments on the Columbine High School tragedy would spark outrage like never before. On April 20th, 1999, 2 students, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, unleashed a devastating mass shooting at their high school in Columbine, Colorado, claiming 13 innocent lives and leaving many more scarred. The day after the tragedy, Howard Stern did what he did best, or worst, depending on who you ask. He tackled the sensitive topic head-on, making some jaw-dropping remarks on his show. "There were really good-looking girls running out of there with their hands over their head. Say the bomb teams are still working. Did those kids try to have sex with any of the good-looking girls? They didn't even do that. At least if you're going to go out and kill all the kids, like, why wouldn't you have some sex? Yeah, I would think that I would want some sex. I mean, if I was going to take people out, I'd take them out with some sex." The question on everyone's mind was, did Howard intentionally aim to stir up controversy? Or was this his twisted way of coping with the horror? The Denver Rocky Mountain News was quick to respond, condemning his comments. "Either we are serious about showing respect for the dead and their families, or we aren't. Either we care about the quality of our culture, or we don't. Let Howard Stern make his millions in other broadcast markets. He does not belong in Denver." The debate was on. Where do you draw the line when it comes to tragedy and comedy? For many, making light of such atrocities was a step too far, disrespecting the victims and their families. But others believed that humor was a necessary coping mechanism, a way to prevent us from drowning in the darkness that surrounds us. The fallout was swift and severe. The Denver radio channel broadcasting Stern's show was pressured to drop it, and both houses in the state legislature passed a measure to formally censor him. Advertisers fled, and his personal life began to unravel. Howard himself admits that his behavior took a toll on his wife and 3 daughters throughout his career. After 21 years of marriage, Howard Stern's world was turned upside down. The 45-year-old bachelor was now on a mission to indulge in sex and destruction, leaving his wholesome suburban dad image in tatters. His fan base, largely comprised of men who secretly admired his edgy humor, was shocked by his transformation into a millionaire playboy sleeping with models and losing his creative edge. Ratings plummeted, and his show hit rock bottom. In 2000, Howard's obsession with the then 14-year-old Olsen twins, Mary-Kate and Ashley, raised eyebrows. On his show, he shared a story about watching one of their movies with his 7-year-old daughter, looking for activities to do together. He then suggested a recently released Mary-Kate and Ashley movie for them to watch together. But things took a dark turn when he made disturbingly suggestive comments about the twins. "Remember the two little girls from Full House? Sure, well now they're like 13 and they're pieces of ass." His comments were alarming, to say the least, and seemed to justify a mentality that some men his age found acceptable. 2 years later, Howard's fascination with the Olsen twins hadn't wavered. "My old is way into the Olsen twins. I mean, as everyone in their tapes knows everything about them, loves them, doesn't love them the way I love them. I love them because they're going to be hot." The harsh reality was that Howard's feelings towards the twins were all too common. The internet was filled with countdowns to their 18th birthday, when they would officially become fair game for creepy fantasies. In fact, at least 7 websites were dedicated to counting down the minutes until the twins reached adulthood. Making women feel uncomfortable almost came naturally to him. On a 2002 episode of The Howard Stern Show, Stern and his co-host started to discuss Anna Nicole Smith's weight gain in recent years. "For some reason, she doesn't think she's heavy. I would say she weighs 300 pounds at least." A co-host then chimed in, "I bet you $100 she's not over 300, but it's got to be so close. I think she's got to be like 280, 290. They proceeded to set up a game, placing bets on her weight. Once they got Anna on the show, Howard doubled down. "If we weigh you now, I'll give you $3,000 courtesy of i.com and Trimper, plus an Xbox for your son." Anna refused to play along, but Howard kept pushing her for the next 5 minutes, making her increasingly uncomfortable. It was a disturbing display of disrespect and objectification. If you like this video, please leave a number 9 in the comments below. Just when it seemed like Howard Stern's show was losing its edge, he introduced a new cast member, Artie Lang, a stand-up comedian and huge fan of the show. Artie was a breath of fresh air for fans, representing the common man and average Joe persona that Howard had lost. Artie's struggles with addiction and depression made him relatable to millions of listeners, and his ability to laugh away the pain made him a fan favorite. Artie and Howard became close friends, and their chemistry on set was undeniable. The show experienced a brief resurgence of shocking content, including the infamous Butterface pageant, a beauty contest where women would cover their faces with a brown paper bag and showcase their bodies. A panel of judges would rate them, and then rate them again on their face once they removed the bag. The worse the face, the higher the score. It was a mind-boggling display of objectification, with some of the women being called ugly, despite the judges' own questionable appearances. In the early 2000s, celebrities became a staple of Howard's program, with guests like The Rock, 50 Cent, Tobey Maguire, Gene Simmons, Vince McMahon, and Matthew McConaughey. The show became a platform for celebrities to open up about their deepest secrets. However, a major cultural shift occurred in 2004 after the Nipplegate Super Bowl halftime show controversy. The FCC began cracking down on indecency, and Howard's show was suspended 3 weeks later after an interview with Rick Salomon, Paris Hilton's ex-boyfriend. A listener's use of the N-word with the hard R was the final straw, and Howard Stern's show was officially cancelled. Or so it seemed. Later that year, Howard Stern made a groundbreaking announcement. He had signed a 5-year, $500 million deal with Sirius Satellite Radio. This meant he was finally free from the FCC's grasp, and his battles with the government were over. Although his viewership would decrease since satellite radio required a subscription, Howard had built a loyal fan base over the years, and millions of them were willing to pay for access to his show. This was a new beginning for Howard, and he was ready to take his content to unprecedented heights. And as we know, Howard would push the envelope like never before. Enter the It's Just Wrong show, a segment that would make even the most seasoned fans cringe. This disturbing show had only 4 episodes, each featuring a different family relationship: father-daughter, brother-sister, mum-son, and mother-daughter. The concept was simple. Family members would answer trivia questions to win cash prizes. But if they answered incorrectly, the male counterpart would have to remove an article of clothing from their female family member. The last one standing would win up to $10,000. But things took a dark turn when fathers were undressing their adult daughters or brothers were stripping their little sisters naked in front of a live studio audience and millions of viewers at home. If you thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. Near the end of the show, when everyone was already naked, Howard and his crew would start throwing money around, making disturbing comments like, "There, Valerie, as much as I'd love to hand you over the money, I mean, you wouldn't let your father spank you for $3,000, would you?" Or in one episode, he paid sisters to let their brothers grope their breasts. While all participants were consenting adults, some of the dads seemed to enjoy the game a little too much. This segment was a stark reminder of how desperate people were for money, willing to humiliate themselves on camera for the world to see. Fortunately, for the sake of humanity, Howard Stern began to tone down his content around 2009 or 2010. His glory days were behind him, and he was done with the overly explicit and edgy skits. The Whack Pack would no longer make regular appearances, and he stopped introducing new characters for the fandom. His beloved co-host Artie Lang was struggling with addiction and depression, and his battle almost ended in tragedy in 2010. Although Howard wanted to support his friend Artie Lang, he didn't think bringing him back on the show would help his recovery. Fans believed that once Artie left, the show lost its magic, and a leaked 2013 staff meeting seemed to confirm this. In the meeting, Howard berated his staff for over an hour, criticizing their work and making it clear that he no longer wanted them to focus on creating humorous content and skits. Instead, his goal was to attract more A-list celebrities to the show. He boasted about the show's ability to boost album sales and book rankings, citing examples like Billy Corgan's album reaching the top 10. Howard emphasized that his 23 million paid subscribers were a valuable marketing tool for celebrities, and he wanted his show to be the go-to destination for interviews and promotions. He noted how celebrities' publicists clamored to get them on Oprah, Jimmy Kimmel, and other popular interview shows, and he wanted his show to be the top choice. However, Howard's vision was not without its challenges. He lamented that his staff looked unprofessional, comparing them to zombies from The Walking Dead and saying they resembled a college radio station or even homeless people working here. It was a far cry from the edgy, humorous show that had once made him a legend. If you like this video, please leave a number 9 in the comments below. It's astonishing to think that Howard Stern, the same guy who once made fathers undress their daughters entirely nude for money, is now concerned about the way his employees dress. It's a complete 180-degree turn from his previous behavior. He spent 30 years mercilessly bashing people, and now he's blaming his staff when celebrities don't want to come on the show. It's total hypocrisy. The Howard Stern of 20 years ago would have made fun of the person he's become today. In his book, Being as Dirty as I Want to Be, Howard writes about his regrets for some of his past behavior, admitting he was self-absorbed and had a hard-ass pose that no longer works. He even disowns his other books, including the 1993 bestseller Private Parts, saying they don't represent him anymore and could be hurtful. He claims his attitude back then was a scorched earth policy. He wanted to shock and offend at all costs. Through therapy, Howard says he's learned that he was hurting people all those years. He was a jester, desperate for attention and status. He claims he doesn't love the man he was, but he loves the man he is now. In recent years, Howard has been on a mission to break the stigma surrounding men's mental health. But it was only a matter of time before people started digging up his past controversies, especially after he tried to deny his previous use of the N-word. When confronted about it, he claimed, "I used the N-word. Wait a second. Hold on before you say that. Whoop. Hold on. Wait. We had a guy on from the Ku Klux Klan who very freely used the N-word, and my belief was, hey, stay it out in the open, and I didn't use the N-word. Let's be very clear." It's a weak attempt to deflect responsibility and rewrite history. During the pandemic, Donald Trump Jr. tweeted an old blackface video of Howard Stern calling for him to be cancelled. Howard responded defiantly, saying, "There's nothing new here. We all knew I was the craziest MFer on the radio." He continued, "I never did anything behind the scenes. I did it right in front of your face." Howard refused to apologize, but admitted he didn't feel good about his past behavior. I cringe when I look at myself 30 or 40 years ago, and that was 27 years ago. I can't stand it. Am I a bad guy? I don't think so. It's worth noting that 27 years ago, Howard was 43 years old. After this controversy, Stern became a vocal advocate for the vaccine, criticizing those who refused to get it. When are we going to stop putting up with the idiots in this country and just say, you now, it's mandatory to get vaccinated? Them, their freedom. I want my freedom to live. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan, the popular podcaster who has surpassed Howard as the voice of the common man, expressed skepticism about the vaccine. This led to accusations of spreading misinformation. After Joe addressed the backlash on Instagram, Howard felt his response wasn't good enough. Howard suggested Joe's apology should be, you know what, listen, I'm a comedian and I have no idea what I'm talking about. I have no medical background whatsoever to be telling people what to do with their health. I'm wrong, and go get the vaccine before you die. It's ironic that Howard Stern, once the champion of free speech and anti-establishment values, is now criticizing celebrities' apologies. His fans have even started calling him woke, which he takes as a compliment. If woke means I can't get behind Trump, which is what I think it means, or that I support people who want to be transgender, or I'm for the vaccine, dude, call me woke as you want. I'm not for stupidity, but I am woke, mother, and I love it. It's never too late to change, but some people question the sincerity of Howard Stern's transformation. To his fans, he represented the unbridled energy of male impulse, unapologetically embracing raw, racy humor and edgy entertainment. While it's fair to hold him accountable for his past actions, it's also important to scrutinize the corporations that profited from his show for years before suddenly developing a conscience. Some critics view Howard's narrative of mental health struggles and self-reflection in therapy as a convenient excuse, a way to garner sympathy and gloss over decades of offensive behavior. Others see him as a sellout who will say and do anything to protect his hundreds of millions of dollars. Few people, however, believe he's genuinely changed and become a paragon of honesty and moral virtue. One thing is certain, though, there will never be another Howard Stern. As we've seen, Howard Stern's life has been a roller coaster of controversy and criticism. From his early days of pushing boundaries to his later years of advocating for mental health and vaccines, it's clear that Stern has faced many challenges and made many mistakes. But the question remains, has he truly changed and grown as a person? Or is he simply seeking to deflect criticism and downplay his past harmful actions? That's for you to decide. If you think Stern has truly transformed, comment yes below. If you don't think he's changed, comment no. Let's keep the conversation going. Regardless of your opinion, there are valuable lessons to be learned from Stern's story. We can all reflect on our own actions and words and consider how they may impact others. We can strive to be more empathetic and understanding, and to use our platforms for good. Thanks for watching Iconic Inside. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more content that explores the fascinating lives of iconic figures. Let's keep exploring, learning, and growing together. Angelina Jolie through the years, seductive and shocking. Behind the mesmerizing smile and captivating gaze lies a life of unimaginable pain and heart-wrenching tragedy. Angelina Jolie's story is a shocking tale of a Hollywood starlet born into a legacy of fame, but cursed with a life of turmoil and suffering. From a childhood marred by her parents' divorce and her own struggles with depression and self-harm, to a series of tumultuous relationships and controversial marriages, Angelina's life has been a ticking time bomb of drama and scandal. With a career built on her provocative image and daring roles, she's faced criticism and backlash at every turn. But beneath the glamour and glitz lies a complex and troubled woman, haunted by her own demons and fighting for survival. Get ready to uncover the dark and shocking truth about Angelina Jolie, a star who has burned brightly. But at what cost? In 1975, Queen debuted Bohemian Rhapsody in London. Microsoft was founded, and Jaws shattered box office records. Meanwhile, Jon Voight and his wife Marceline welcomed Angelina Jolie Voight on June 4th in Los Angeles. Jon Voight fondly recalled, "You don't remember it, but when you emerged from your mother's womb, I picked you up, held you in my hand and looked at your face. You had your finger by the side of your cheek, and you looked very, very wise, like my old best friend." Angelina's arrival brought Jon immense joy, but it couldn't save his marriage. Her mother hoped a second child would rekindle their love, but John's infidelity led to divorce. He began dating his co-star, Stacey Pickren, and Marceline raised their 2 children alone. As John basked in the spotlight, Marceline raised Angelina and her brother James. Despite their father's absence, the children were drawn to cinema. John recalled, "The final scene of The Champ was a little hard for them. They both started weeping. The last scene was very unsettling. I had to take them in my arms and explain that Daddy was just acting, that he wasn't dead, then he was still here with them." Angelina was captivated by film sets and began creating her own at home, using her mother's clothes and makeup. The family was charmed by her talent, and they knew she was born for the big screen. Angelina made her screen debut in Looking to Get Out alongside her father, who also co-wrote the screenplay. This unique film featured a real father, mother, and child. Although filming wrapped in 1980, it wasn't released until 2 years later, when Angelina was 7. Her quirky personality shone through, preferring reptiles as pets and having a crush on Mr. Spock. As Angelina Jolie grew up, her interests shifted from acting to becoming a vampire, and later to opening a funeral home. She believed that funerals should celebrate life, not mourn death. "I'm not scared of death, which makes people think I'm dark, when in fact, I'm positive." In kindergarten, she joined the Kissy Girls, a group that chased boys and gave them love bites. This playful but mischievous behavior continued, getting her into trouble. We would chase boys around and kiss them a lot. It involved giving them love bites, and they would scream. Then a few of the boys stopped and started taking their clothes off, and I got into trouble a lot. When Angelina turned 11, her mother moved back to Los Angeles, and her father helped her get into a prestigious school. However, she didn't fit in with the elite crowd, and her thrift store-style embraces made her a target for teasing. Despite attending the Oscars with her father, she felt like an outsider. Her mother encouraged her to try modeling, but it didn't work out. Angelina turned to punk fashion and developed a reputation as a rebel, attracting insomnia and nervous breakdowns. She started collecting knives, which she found beautiful and traditional. I went to the Renaissance Fair when I was a little girl, and there were all these knives. There's something really beautiful and traditional about them. Different countries have different weapons and blades, and there's something beautiful about them to me. So I begin collecting knives. I've collected weapons since I was a little girl. Children avoided her, and teachers struggled to connect with her. After a therapist's diagnosis of antisocial psychopathy, her mother enrolled her in the Lee Strasberg Theatre Institute. There she learned the Stanislavski method, using personal experiences to act authentically. Angelina thrived in theatre, but left after 2 years, feeling she had enough life experience to act effectively. Or perhaps she left due to a love interest. Angelina's first relationship at 14 was like a grotesque erotic horror film. She brought home her 16-year-old boyfriend, and her mother, Marceline, allowed them to live together to avoid pushing Angelina away. But this permissive approach didn't stop Angelina from exploring a wild, sexually active life. She admitted to using self-harm to feel intimate, saying, "It was a desperate need to feel when I was young. I didn't have a self of my own." Her desperation led her to cut herself all over, and one day, she accidentally cut a vein while carving an X on her shoulder. Paramedics saved her life, and she ended the relationship after that close call. When Angelina turned 16, she reconnected with her father, John Voight, who became her mentor as she returned to theatre. She tried modelling again and found success, landing photo shoots and short films directed by her brother. Moving to New York at 18, she appeared in music videos and shorts, eventually landing a lead role in the 1992 film Cyborg 2. Despite its poor production and mediocre acting, Angelina was thrilled to work on a real film. But the movie's failure was so brutal that it was released straight to VHS, hidden as an add-on to the first installment. The experience was so traumatic that Angelina turned down auditions for a year, fearing her career was over. Ironically, Cyborg 2 marked the debut of Angelina Jolie, as she dropped her father's last name and adopted her middle name as her stage name. This disastrous film introduced the world to the talented actress we know today. If you like this video, please leave a number 9 in the comments below. In 1995, Angelina Jolie returned to the big screen after a 5-year hiatus, starring in the crime comedy Hackers. The film explored the theme of technology, this time focusing on present-day computers. Jolie shared the screen with British actor Jonny Lee Miller, playing high schoolers who break into a corporation's forbidden server. To prepare, the actors visited real-life hackers' lairs to learn about server breaches. Ironically, the film used real computer models instead of graphics, which were deemed too fake. During filming, Jolie and Miller developed a romance, which didn't fade after the cameras stopped rolling. However, Jolie declared she wasn't ready for a serious relationship, which seemed to only encourage Miller. Despite scathing reviews, Jolie remained calm and continued auditioning, landing roles in 2 more films in 1996. In Love Is All There Is, Jolie tried her hand at comedy for the first time, playing a role in a Shakespearean-inspired story about feuding families and young love. Unfortunately, the film was a commercial failure, earning only $60,000 at the box office, and Jolie received lukewarm reviews from critics. Later that year, Jolie starred in the drama Foxfire, playing the independent and stubborn Legs. The film explored complex teen relationships, first loves, and disillusionment. During this time, Jolie met her new flame, Jenny Shimizu, and became so immersed in her character that she fell in love with her co-star. Shimizu, an openly gay woman, claimed that this marked the beginning of a long affair, though she later retracted her statement. Whatever the truth may be, the relationship ended shortly after. In 1996, Jolie reunited with Jonny Lee Miller, and they got married soon after. We didn't have a big white wedding. We had a small black wedding. Angelina Jolie and Jonny Lee Miller's 1996 wedding was an unconventional affair. They exchanged vows in leather pants and white shirts, writing each other's names in blood on their backs and sealing their love with a bloody pact. However, this unorthodox union lasted only a little over a year, ending in divorce. Jolie's film career was also experiencing a slump. Foxfire joined her list of unsuccessful movies, leading to a bout of depression that she struggled with through drug use. Her next films, including Playing God and Mojave Moon, met with similar failure, leaving her feeling defeated and considering quitting acting altogether. Playing God, a crime thriller co-starring David Duchovny, was initially filmed in 1995 but underwent extensive editing due to a convoluted narrative and plot holes. The studio attempted to lure audiences with a provocative trailer featuring Jolie and Duchovny, but this tactic backfired, earning scorn from critics and viewers alike. The film's poor reception was a setback for Duchovny's rising star, while Jolie's streak of bad luck continued. However, Jolie found a glimmer of hope when she appeared in a Rolling Stones music video, strutting through New York City in lingerie. The song became a top 20 hit, reminding audiences of her natural beauty. She then broke her cycle of bad luck with the TV movie True Women, playing the strong-willed Georgia. For the first time, her sexuality wasn't the focus, and critics praised her performance. Jolie's success continued with another TV project, the biographical drama George Wallace, which tackled racism in 1950s-70s Alabama. Working alongside esteemed actors like Gary Sinise and director John Frankenheimer allowed Jolie to showcase new facets of her talent, earning her recognition and acclaim. Angelina Jolie's career was marked by ups and downs. After a string of unsuccessful films, she appeared in the crime drama Hell's Kitchen, 1998, alongside Rosanna Arquette and William Forsythe. Despite her strong performance, the movie bombed at the box office, earning a mere $11,000 on its first day, and was quickly pulled from theaters and released straight to video. Undeterred, Jolie continued to work, and her talent caught the attention of television producers. In the same year, she received an offer from HBO to star in a biographical drama about the life of model Gia Karangi. The channel was known for its high-quality productions, and Jolie was hesitant at first, citing the uncanny similarities between herself and Gia. Gia has enough similarities to me that I figured this would either be a purge of all my demons, or it was really going to mess with me. As she prepared for the role, Jolie immersed herself in Gia's world, meeting with her friends and studying her diaries, which formed the basis of the screenplay. She isolated herself from her family and remained focused on the project, resulting in a hauntingly accurate portrayal of Gia. The film, Gia, 1998, was a gritty and unflinching look at the darker side of the modeling world in the 1980s. Through Gia's tragic story, the creators exposed the harsh realities of a glamorous industry, where bright lights and camera flashes hid thousands of broken lives. By the end of filming, Jolie felt drained and exhausted. I felt like I'd given everything I had, and I couldn't imagine what else was in me. Director Michael Christopher was thrilled when Jolie agreed to take on the challenging role, and her dedication paid off. The film's realism, cruelty, and despair were striking, and some scenes even eclipsed the screen adaptation of Trainspotting, featuring her then-husband Johnny Lee Miller a year earlier. As Angelina Jolie delved deeper into her role for Gia, she found herself struggling with personal demons. Using the Stanislavski method, which requires intense emotional immersion, exacerbated her problems. She felt drained, like she'd given everything to the camera and had nothing left for the audience. Her relationships suffered, and she pushed loved ones away, seeking solace in solitude. After filming Gia, Jolie tried to escape her depression by traveling across America, staying in roadside motels, and eventually enrolling in a New York university to study directing and screenwriting. However, this attempt at a fresh start didn't help, and she dropped out by December 1997. Ironically, it was during this dark period that her career received a much-needed boost. George Wallace, a film she had worked on earlier, earned 7 Emmy nominations and won a Golden Globe for Best TV Film in 1998. Jolie's nomination for Best Supporting Actress reignited her confidence, and she cherished the memory of that evening. In her acceptance speech, she thanked the director for creating a supportive atmosphere on set and helping her believe in her talent again. 2 weeks later, Gia premiered on HBO, captivating millions with her performance. A year later, she would take the stage once more, accepting the Golden Globe for Best Performance by an Actress. Within weeks, Jolie's career transformed, and offers poured in. By February 1998, she began filming her next project, Pushing Tin, alongside a star-studded cast, including John Cusack, Cate Blanchett, and Billy Bob Thornton. Directed by Mike Newell, the romantic comedy marked a new milestone in Jolie's career, with her playing Thornton's wife. Interestingly, they shared the same manager, who had joked about not wanting them to meet, fearing they would marry. Thornton's personal life was shrouded in controversy. There were rumors of his numerous intrigues, having been married 4 times previously, with his last marriage to a Playboy model ending in divorce and allegations of domestic violence. Moreover, he was already engaged to actress Laura Dern. Despite this, Jolie and Thornton developed a friendly rapport on set, often discussing their roles over dinner. While their on-screen chemistry blossomed, the rumors surrounding Thornton's personal life lingered. If you like this video, please leave a number 9 in the comments below. Art Linson, the director, praised Jolie and Thornton's on-screen chemistry in Pushing Tin. They were extremely convincing as a couple in front of the camera, but I thought it was just real good acting and nothing more. However, the public's reception was mixed, with criticism aimed more at the plot and Jolie's character rather than her acting abilities. Despite this, the film had a significant impact on Jolie's career. She continued to work tirelessly, filming 2 more movies in 1998. In the melodrama Playing by Heart, she shared the screen with an ensemble cast, including Patricia Clarkson, Ellen Burstyn, Dennis Quaid, and Sean Connery. The film's complex narrative, with 6 interconnected storylines and 11 characters, didn't quite resonate with audiences, adding another less than successful project to Jolie's filmography. Undeterred, Jolie took on a role in the thriller The Bone Collector, directed by Philip Noyce, who was impressed by her performance in Gia. She was excited to work alongside Denzel Washington, and the film's success proved that her career was finally gaining momentum. The movie tells the story of a serial killer caught by a rookie policewoman and a quadriplegic forensics expert. And while critics noted that the actors' performances outshone the script, the film's box office success, earning $150 million, marked a turning point in Jolie's career. The Bone Collector was the first successful film featuring Jolie, earning more than all her previous films combined. This career milestone coincided with her divorce from Johnny Lee Miller, signaling a new chapter in her personal and professional life. I'm not present enough physically or emotionally in relationships to get serious. It's not fair to the other person that I'm so busy with my career, and that I'm often distant, even when I am with someone. Angelina Jolie and Johnny Lee Miller's marriage may have ended, but they remained close friends. Jolie has often expressed her gratitude to Miller for helping her overcome her drug addiction, which had worsened after filming Gia. To discuss her next project, we need to go back in time to the late 1990s. Winona Ryder was then a rising star, impressing audiences with her performances in The Age of Innocence and Dracula. She was drawn to the memoirs of Susanna Kaysen and wanted to bring the story to life on screen. However, Columbia Pictures owned the rights and wasn't eager to invest in a psychological drama. Winona spent 5 years championing the project, going through countless script revisions and directorial candidates. Finally, in 1998, the film was greenlit with James Mangold at the helm. Mangold's debut Heavy had won over Winona and audiences at Sundance. The story of complex, dynamic women resonated with many talented actresses. Lisa Rowe, a charismatic character dubbed Jack Nicholson in a skirt by Mangold, was a particularly compelling role. Mangold considered Claire Danes, Courtney Love, and Angelina Jolie for the part. But after his initial conversation with Jolie, he knew she was the standout choice. She sat down and she was Lisa. I felt like the luckiest guy on earth. Her power is volcanic. It's huge. It's electric. The cast of Girl, Interrupted, was joined by Elizabeth Moss, Vanessa Redgrave, Jared Leto, and Whoopi Goldberg. Filming took place over 4 months at a working psychiatric clinic in Harrisburg. Jolie, in character, avoided her co-stars, including Winona Ryder, with whom she never spoke off camera. This intense method acting took a toll on Jolie's well-being, and after filming she voluntarily admitted herself to a psychiatric hospital for treatment. Despite Winona Ryder's 7-year dedication to the project, Girl, Interrupted failed at the box office due to its large budget and received mixed reviews. Author Susanna Kaysen criticized the director for altering the storyline and adding unnecessary scenes, but praised the acting performances. Winona Ryder had expected an Oscar win, but the film received only one nomination, Angelina Jolie for Best Supporting Actress. Jolie went on to win several awards, including an Actors Guild Award, a Golden Globe, and an Oscar. However, her triumphant moment was overshadowed by her behavior at the ceremony, where she held her brother's hand and spoke about him being the best man in her life. The next day, newspapers published a photo of Angelina passionately kissing her brother, sparking rumors and speculation. Jolie later clarified that the kiss was a gesture of affection and not romantic in nature. Despite this, the incident cast a shadow over her next project, Original Sin 2000, a mystical drama co-starring Antonio Banderas. Directed by Michael Christopher, who had previously worked with Jolie on Gia, the film's success was marred by an on-set incident involving Jolie's insistence on performing sex scenes fully nude. Angelina Jolie's insistence on performing explicit sex scenes in Original Sin led to director Michael Christopher discarding most of the footage. Rumors swirled that Jolie and co-star Antonio Banderas had a secret romance, but Jolie later clarified that the rumors were baseless. Meanwhile, she eloped with Billy Bob Thornton, and the two got married in a low-key Las Vegas ceremony. Critics panned Original Sin, but Jolie was distracted by her new romance. She and Thornton exchanged vows on May 5, 2000, in a simple ceremony. Thornton had a checkered past, but the couple was convinced their love would last. Look, we can't prove to you that we're going to stay together forever, but we just are. 5 years later, we'll meet again, and you'll go, "How's your wife?" And I'll go, "She's just fine." After the wedding, Thornton dedicated a song to Jolie, and they showed off their matching tattoos of each other's names. At the premiere of Gone in 60 Seconds, Jolie's action-packed film from 1999, they made a shocking display of affection. Jolie took on the role in Gone in 60 Seconds to break away from serious dramatic parts. It was a script they gave me that was nothing but Ferraris, Nick Cage, and Giovanni Ribisi. And that sounded like a good idea. It's a fun movie. And I tried just to have fun. She learned extreme driving and carjacking skills and enjoyed the non-stop action. Despite featuring 3 Oscar winners, Jolie, Nicolas Cage, and Robert Duvall, the film didn't impress critics or succeed at the box office, losing Disney Studios an estimated $100 million. Despite her Golden Globe Awards and Oscar win, Jolie's name wasn't yet synonymous with international blockbusters, having appeared in 17 films without a major commercial success. Angelina Jolie's career took a significant turn with the screen adaptation of Lara Croft, Tomb Raider. Director Simon West had her in mind from the start, citing her fearless and independent nature as a perfect fit for the role. It was always Angelina. I mean, Laura sleeps with knives and doesn't take a shit from anybody. That's Angelina down to a T. Initially, Jolie wasn't sold on the idea, partly due to her husband's fondness for the video game, which she saw as overly sexualized. Moreover, she had recently turned down a similar project, Charlie's Angels, as she couldn't relate to any of the characters. However, West persisted, highlighting their physical resemblance and the opportunity to showcase Lara Croft in a new light. What ultimately swayed Jolie was the promise of exotic filming locations: Iceland, England, China, and Cambodia. She even suggested John Voight, her father, for the role of Lara's missing father. After agreeing, Jolie relocated to London for 6 months of intense preparation. Jolie, known for her unhealthy lifestyle, found the strict diet and gym regimen challenging. She traded cigarettes and alcohol for protein shakes and yoga, followed by rigorous training in fitness, kickboxing, rowing, and even shooting with British Special Forces. By the end of the preparation period, Jolie had transformed, gaining confidence in her physical abilities. During the shoot, Jolie insisted on performing all her stunts without a double, but suffered a setback when she fell and twisted her ankle in one of the first extreme scenes. The team had to wait 2 weeks for her to recover before refilming. After her ankle injury, Angelina Jolie was assisted by stunt double Eunice Hather, who had already worked with her on a previous film. Their collaboration blossomed into a lasting friendship, with Hather continuing to serve as Jolie's double to this day. However, during the Tomb Raider shoot, Jolie's stubbornness tested Hather's patience. Hather described Jolie as the most obstinate woman she had ever met. Despite her recent injury, Jolie insisted on performing a log balancing scene without safety harnesses, causing concern among the stunt choreographers. They spent an entire day convincing her to reconsider. Later, Jolie refused Hather's help in a jungle scene, where snakes and other creatures constantly dropped into the open-top Land Rover, requiring numerous takes. The film incorporated nods to the video game, including Lara's signature moves, outfits, and shouts. Initially, Jolie hesitated to wear short shorts, but relented to appease fans. She also wore a push-up bra to match the character's physique. Daniel Craig played her rival, Alex West, ironically an American in the script, whereas in reality, Craig is British. Jolie convincingly portrayed Lara Croft and fulfilled her travel dreams. The final filming location was Cambodia, where American cinematographers worked for the first time since 1964. The country's post-Civil War devastation and ongoing landmine crisis left a lasting impact on Jolie. She was shocked by the daily deaths of children due to landmine explosions and realized this experience had changed her forever. Lara Croft, Tomb Raider premiered in summer 2001, earning $250 million in 3 months and catapulting Jolie to unprecedented fame. Her face appeared on merchandise, from t-shirts to action figures, making her a global icon. However, Jolie was uneasy with her newfound fame and declined lucrative contracts and film offers. Seeing yourself in plastic is just one of the most bizarre things that could happen to you. I can just imagine someone taking the head off and setting it on fire or sticking me upside down in mud. Instead, she dedicated the rest of the year to United Nations field missions, visiting countries like Pakistan, Ecuador, and Cambodia. If you like this video, please leave a number 9 in the comments below. Angelina Jolie's transformation into a humanitarian was marked by significant donations to refugee causes, including a record-breaking $1 million to the UNHCR, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. She also donated proceeds from her memoirs to the same organization. In August 2001, she was appointed an official Goodwill Ambassador for Refugees by the UNHCR, a role she would fulfill for the next 20 years, visiting over 50 crisis zones and helping millions of refugees. As Jolie's focus shifted to humanitarian work, her loved ones grew concerned. However, her husband, Billy Bob Thornton, supported her desire to adopt a child. After gathering necessary documents, they visited an orphanage in Battambang, Cambodia, where Jolie met Maddox, a 1-year-old boy who captured her heart. After a 3-month wait, Jolie finally adopted Maddox in December 2001, while filming Beyond Borders in Namibia. Beyond Borders, a drama about a volunteer traveling to crisis zones, resonated with Jolie's recent experiences. The film crew ventured to remote locations, and Jolie relived her own humanitarian work. Despite the film's poor reception and box office failure, Jolie remained committed to her new path. The film's director, Oliver Stone, had initially planned to work with Catherine Zeta-Jones, but she dropped out due to pregnancy. Jolie took on the role, hoping to raise awareness about global crises. Unfortunately, the film received negative reviews, and Jolie was disheartened. Around the same time, Jolie's marriage to Thornton ended. He supported her charity work in theory, but wasn't ready for fatherhood. Jolie filed for divorce, gained full custody of Maddox, and removed her tattoo. As she embraced her new life, the once provocative rebel transformed into a mature woman dedicated to making a positive impact. I think we're all meant to do certain things. I'm meant to find my family across the world among kids who have already been born. Angelina Jolie's next role in Life or Something Like It mirrored her personal journey. Playing a TV reporter who transforms her life after a terminal diagnosis, Jolie echoed her character's metamorphosis by leaving Los Angeles and moving to England. She settled in the same house where Stanley Kubrick had filmed Eyes Wide Shut, and enjoyed freedom from paparazzi, focusing on UN charity work. Jolie then embarked on the Tomb Raider sequel, with Jan de Bont directing and Gerard Butler joining the cast. Despite changes, the film failed to impress fans and critics, and its Chinese setting was banned in China due to unfavorable portrayal. The film's action scenes were praised, but the advertising campaign, which included a limited edition Jeep, was seen as overly promotional. The film's poor performance led to the cancellation of a third installment, which didn't disappoint Jolie, who was ready to move on. Next, Jolie joined the action film Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow, directed by Kerry Conran, who had spent over a decade developing the project. Despite a tight 3-week shooting schedule, the film boasted a $71 million budget and starred Jude Law and Gwyneth Paltrow alongside Jolie. Conran's passion project, which began as a short film shot in his living room, finally came to life with the help of producer John Avnet. A year after filming wrapped up, the movie Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow was finally released, but it ended up being a huge financial loss for Paramount Studios and effectively ended director Kerry Conran's career. Conran claims he was a victim of studio politics and had initially planned to make the film on a much smaller budget of around $3.5 million, which would have meant a smaller cast and less CGI. Despite the official budget being $71 million, Conran believes the actual cost was half that. After this film, Angelina Jolie moved on to the crime thriller Taking Lives, where she played an FBI agent tracking a serial killer. The media focused more on rumors of an affair between Jolie and co-star Ethan Hawke than the film itself. The following year, Hawke divorced Uma Thurman, but it's unclear if Jolie had any involvement. Jolie's performance in Taking Lives earned her first Golden Raspberry nomination. And she wouldn't have to wait long for her second, thanks to her role in Oliver Stone's historical drama, Alexander. The film boasted an impressive cast, including Colin Farrell, Val Kilmer and Anthony Hopkins. Jolie played Olympias, the powerful wife of a king, who was known for her love of snakes and her enchanting presence. She insisted on wearing a revealing outfit, despite Stone's initial plan for historical accuracy. Jolie's character was known for using her sexuality as a weapon, and she played Alexander's mother, despite being only a year older than Colin Farrell. Stone spent 3 years working on the film, which cost over $150 million, making it his most expensive project. Unfortunately, the critics were brutal, and the film received 6 Golden Raspberry nominations, including Worst Picture. This marked the second year in a row that Jolie was nominated for the Unwanted Award, and the film ultimately failed at the box office. Despite controversy over the bisexual portrayal of Alexander the Great, the film surprisingly performed well in Greece, leading to a successful DVD and Blu-ray release. In fact, it set a sales record for Warner Brothers Studios, making up for losses from its initial theatrical run. Angelina Jolie's next project, The Fever, addressed issues in developing countries, but unfortunately didn't gain much traction. However, her voice work as Lola in the animated film Shark Tale proved to be a highlight of her productive yet challenging year in 2004. Shark Tale, featuring an all-star cast including Will Smith, Renee Zellweger and Jack Black, was a box office hit. Despite criticism from reviewers who felt its adult humor and complex plot were unsuitable for an animated film. The movie was packed with clever references to American pop culture, from famous brands to nods at iconic films like The Godfather and Titanic. After this light-hearted project, Jolie signed on to the action comedy Mr. and Mrs. Smith, unaware that it would be a game-changer for her personal life. That's it for part 1 of Angelina Jolie's incredible story, folks. Join us next time for part 2, where we'll dive even deeper into the highs and lows of this Hollywood icon's life. So what can we learn from Angelina's journey so far? Firstly, that our past doesn't define us. We have the power to shape our own destiny. Angelina's childhood struggles and tumultuous relationships didn't hold her back from achieving greatness. Secondly, that using our platform for good can bring purpose and meaning to our lives. Angelina's humanitarian work and advocacy for refugees and women's rights is a testament to the impact one person can have. And lastly, that embracing our complexity and imperfections can lead to true fulfillment. Angelina's unapologetic embrace of her multifaceted personality and career is a reminder that we don't have to fit into one mold to be successful and happy. Now we want to hear from you. Which role of Angelina's do you like the most? Comment A if you're a die-hard fan. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Iconic for part 2 of Angelina's story and many more inspiring videos. Join the conversation and let's keep exploring the fascinating lives of the world's most iconic stars.